Chanjo Bado Dami Gapsuchi, Dagi Chujin Jebe Sonan, Jordan Panjo Sange Jopan, Sanje, Jordan Sange Jonama, Chanjo Bado Dami Gapsuchi, Dagi Chujin Jebe Sonan, Jordan Panjo Sange Jopan, Sanje, Jordan Sange Jonama, Chanjo Bado Dami Gapsuchi, Dagi Chujin Jebe Sonan, Jordan Panjo Sange Jopan, Sho Tayata Gade Gade Paragade Parasumgade Bodhi So Tayata Omogade Gade Paragade Parasumgade Bodhi So Tayata Omogade Gade Paragade Parasumgade Bodhi So Simja Tamjaga Tabjalana Macheba Sanjay Kumar Mochini Tobacha Teach Janju Sima Labjana Sushima Lawa Shingo Shimba Toba Tujishu Manoa Chibotu.
And so we set our motivation to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment, knowing that to do that I must perfectly train in the trainings of the Bodhisattva path. In order to do that, I need to have a very good understanding through studying, through learning what these practices are, and I need to do this in reliance upon a non-mistaken text. And from this motivation, I'm going to endeavor to do this by listening to a teaching from the Graduated Path, a series of teachings today. Gyatang Sunju Sokshi Gone Danyong for the Tadum. So yeah, the Daniel Shi Chamba Chu Lensing, the Gyatang Sunju Sub.
That's the Bejan Kanjaja, Namjunation, Swashin set up, what? Swashin set up Janata Kanjaja. Swashin set up the Tutu but then in a time came to the Jantaka Jaja, Chicaso de Kid, Takaja, Swashin the Soa de Caso Lamaton to a chance set up, and then Chicaso de Danjota and Jashin Juju. Yeah, you know, someone that you the Jashin Juju. And then the Caso de Dula Ragged Lama Children with a Lama Koyu, and the Shabda and Casa de Dajamajachi, or Caso de Judici Lazo. So what I can judge Caso de Lame, Nejo, Juju, Jaju, and Casan Sanjaton, and Caso de that University just chance purpose, and Raja, Tajo by the poverty, and Nera, because I need to touch a poverty and the power to shoot so much and Takaja, so she must on my watch bar, set on the 20 years, something check, what to check.
And so, first of all, we begin by setting up the visualization of the merit field in the space in front, with the central figure of Guru Maninja Dorje Chang or Vajradhara. And then with all the different members of the merit field, with that the vertical lineage behind the main figure of Guru Maninja Vajradhara, of the consecrated practices lineage headed by Vajradhara, and then to the left and the right, the lineages of the profound view headed by Maitreya, the lineage of the extensive practices headed by the lineage of profound view headed by Manjushri, and the lineage of extensive practices headed by Maitreya. And then with the different schools of the Kadampa lineages below them on both sides, and on both sides then the representations of the great lamas of the Gelug tradition with the Lama Tsongkhapa at the center. And then just below the central figure of the merit field, Guru Maninja Vajradhara, we have the grouping of our own gurus, those from whom we have received teachings directly or indirectly, and that there at the center of that grouping is our own root guru. And then we have the representations of the different tantric lineages or the tantric classes, starting with the highest yoga tantra or Anatara yoga tantra, and then the yoga charya tantra, Kriya and the Charya and the Kriya sets of tantric deities. Then all the representations of the different Buddhas, from the Buddhas of this thousand Buddhas of this fortunate eon through the 35 Buddhas, and then the representations of the great bodhisattvas, the hearers, solitary realizers, arhats, and then the moving on to the dakas and dakinis, and then the dharma protectors. So all of the figures of the merit field represented, we have this understanding of them there, regardless of how well we visualize, as being absolutely complete, without exception, and with no one missing.
대다 단자야 아니 넘버 민나시 그래서 넘버 리두스도 동안 녀절라 아니 그러다 리두스도 동안 녀절라 아니 가서다 같이 리두스도 동안 녀절라 넘버 민나시다 남주에 되게 아니 잡이 대달래 아니 그 아니 연대 통할 거네 아니 그 가서다 가서다 대고 세주도 요되는 저거한테 공부하시.
And so then, in the space all around us, we visualize all kind, mother, sentient beings, again, without exception. And that we have this understanding of them as, even though they are resident within the 6 realms of existence and undergoing the different sufferings there, they have the appearance of a human, and they have the understanding of a human being. And so they're able to, just like us, appreciate the wonderful qualities of the objects of refuge in the merit field in the space in front, and through an appreciation of those qualities also develop a sense of faith and trust in them. And then from the merit field, all the figures of the merit field send out rays of light to the pure realms, the Buddha realms, inviting the wisdom beings which come and dissolve into all the different members of the merit field. Then one offers the practice of the 7 limbs, or the 7-limb prayer, together with the offering of the mandala.
Power country, Chujusuma power country ticket and Yaran ticket and Casote, Ranja ticket, the Casote Chanjo just a purpose of Tenet, Sajaton Tenet, and the Chaju, the Lamechus, what in the Yatin and Rangati Lamal party. And it didn't because of the Taka Chawilla Cuba ticket, Yachila Chitan and Casote, Katamama ticket, Yatin and Samotaju, the Chaju, Takacha, Jamja and Yellow party. And and
so then next begins the dissolution of the merit field that we are visualizing in front, and this begins from the bottom of the merit field, where we start with the Dharma protectors dissolving into the next row above them, being represented by the dakas and dakinis, and then that in turn dissolves into the representations of the arhats, the hearers, the solitary realizers, the bodhisattvas and the Buddhas, and so on, until you go through the dissolutions, right on up through the different sets of the tantric deities, and into the grouping of our own gurus and teachers, and they all dissolve into one single figure that's remaining of that section, which is our own root guru. And then we focus on both the left and the right, where all of the different figures represented from the grouping of the Gelugpa grouping on both sides to the different three schools of the Kadampa lineages, and they all dissolve into the group of the representing the profound view and the extensive practices lineage, and they in turn then dissolve into the last two remaining figures on the left and right, which will be Manjushri and Maitreya. And then concentrating to just behind the main figure, and we have the consecrated lineage lamas, which dissolve one into each other, going upwards until we are left with the last remaining figure of Vajradhara. And so now we have the last five remaining main figures of the merit field, being the central figure of Guru Muninja Vajradhara, our own root guru Manjushri, Maitreya, and Vajradhara.
조금 더 시. 아니 되네다. 되게 돼. 아니 가서도 저 도지 찬데 막 아니 저 아무 동안 도착 막 아니 예용 잠자한이데 라마 동안 도착한테. 아니 가서도 랑게 진짜 자외 라마테 라마 동안 도착해. 아니 가서 두가 가도록 내서 삼사 어디는 공부시.
And so then we have time. We use our placement meditation focus, just resting on those final five figures of the merit field, before they then begin the process of dissolution. And here, starting with the figure of Vajradhara, which comes down to dissolve into the central figure of Guru Muninja Vajradhara. And then the figures on the left and right, being Maitreya and Manjushri, come into the center and dissolve into the central figure of Guru Muninja Vajradhara. And finally, our own root guru comes upwards to the heart of the Guru Muninja Vajradhara and dissolves into the heart center of Guru Muninja Vajradhara.
아니 가서도 통한 도지 찬데 라마 통한 도지 찬데 다 같이 가서래 다 같이 다 같이 도서 산제 탄제가 다니 되네 로 라마 통한 도지 찬데 두가라 다 같이 로 도지 찬데 두가 되는 사바 어디는 쇼가치 어디는 공부시 어디는
And so that we focus on then the last remaining main figure of Guru Muninja Vajradhara, and we have the understanding, the knowing that Guru Muninja Vajradhara is the embodiment of all Buddhas. At his heart center is the wisdom being, and at the heart center of the wisdom being is the concentration syllable Hum.
어떤 공부시 어다 되잖아. 아니 들라 소화 부조선은 딱 구제다니 라마라베라 통화도에 잘 소화돼. 저 저거 될 라마라 통화도에 잘 소화돼서 딱 이제 어디게 어디 거서도 거서 어디 소데 부조선다 베티지 직도 어디
And then we offer the stake-like supplication from the miraculous book of the Gelugpas, which goes, "My most divine Guru, Lord of the four Kayas, I make petition to you, Shakyamuni Vajradhara. My most divine Guru, Lord of unimpeded Dharmakaya, I make petition to you, Shakyamuni Vajradhara," etc.
어떻게 쳤어? 아니 되네다. 디 가서도 랑이 주월 빼마는 님의 대제 삼다. 아니 디 레다 가서도 디라는 딱 가서 뒤에 세트에 라마 가서도 통한도 라마 통한도 차된 제자 받을 라마 딱이 주변에 그 고소도 모두 자주서 답을 가서 줘. 이거 가서 쇼 숨어 때도 산제 고마마도 받을 제도 송수 선상 공부하시 거든요.
And then we make the supplication following that to invite the figure of Guru Muninja Vajradhara in the merit field to come to our crown. And so we prepare there on our crown a lotus seat, a lotus and moon disc seat, and we make the supplication prayer, "O glorious and precious root Guru, come take a lotus and moon seat placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainments of your body, speech, and mind." So with the first recitation of that verse, the figure comes to our crown, with the second sits on our crown facing forward, and with the third recitation we feel that they are steadfast and stable in that situation, and indeed that they are going to remain with us, offering their protection and support until we ourselves attain enlightenment. And so then with this in place, then we look towards the that section of the text that we are discussing at the moment that concerns the teachings in relation to the being of greater capacity. And here we found that the essential practice here is to generate what's known as the mind of enlightenment as an essential part of the path of the being of greater capacity. And that to give rise to this, we have two main instructional methods, the 7 cause and effect instruction and the equalizing and exchange of self and others instruction. And so we need to be able to fully cultivate one of the mind of enlightenment by means of one of these methods in order to for that mind of enlightenment or bodhicitta to be fully qualified. And that both of these instructions begin with a preliminary cultivation of what's known as equanimity. This is a very important part of the training, as it said that equanimity is like the ground, the even ground or the fertile ground in which one sows the seed of compassion and waters it with the water of love, to give rise to the sprout of the mind of enlightenment, and that eventually produces the fruit of Buddhahood.
아니 랑게 셈 예부데 쇼게 셈 예부데 아니 야 가서데 님은 잡라 야 소소 계제 셰당다 지단 지금 맞으면 되라 셈 예부데 라트고요 셈 예부데 살려바게 삼로 형태다 즉 교도 나서와 정도가 단단 거라서 셈데 템보스케 미도가 저 랑젠진의 생활도 교대도 그 템보스케 요 말이 뭐도가 다른 거 저기 잡아든 이제 깨봐 있네 잡아든 이제데 철해와 rāndā rāng jumzān dā chāni kē tēngā sōrā chā tēngā tuwa tā tē mēmbā chāni dā xiān jumzān chāni kē kū tuwa rā āndā dā rā
And so the importance of the mind of equanimity is very much emphasized because it contrasts with the kind of partiality, discriminating attitudes that we operate under at the moment, whereby for those that we like, there's a sense of closeness, but for those that we dislike, there's this distance and so on. And also it highlights the fragility or the instability of the mind as it is at the moment, such that we can feel quite close to somebody in the morning, but then by afternoon, because of some sort of conversation that we've had, we lose that sense of closeness, and we kind of designate them as somebody now more distant and strange to us. And so equanimity has no part in that sort of discriminating mind. It's also essential as a preliminary to being able to develop the other causal aspects of generating the mind of enlightenment, such as love and compassion, because it's said that without equanimity, yes, we can develop a sense of love and a sense of compassion, but it will be incomplete. It will be partial and dependent, and so on different conditions, and that can't be the case. Such love and compassion is not the love and compassion that's necessary or vital for the generation of the mind of enlightenment.
그래서 배는 먼저 심제 가서다 자자 고주 고고다 어느 포인트 고기 아니 닝지 깨와 임바 있나야 심제 찍을 게 두고 먼저나 아니 디 랑게 다 그래서 닝지 쳐볼 게라 아니 객지 연구도 와 안들라 때네 아니 자주 심 게라 객지 연구도 와 심제 간가 하고 먹을 게제 영화를 무엇이 마신 게자 말이야 심제 인사베절라 들 닝지 깨 두겠지 고도 와 닝지 잡고 고도 와 어디서
And so here it's to emphasize that if we have a sense of compassion for 99.99% of sentient beings, but we leave out the 0.01 of sentient beings, then that does not qualify as the great compassion that's necessary, a necessary and key cause to generate the mind of enlightenment. And so it's very important that to understand that if our mind, if our compassion fails to encompass all sentient beings without exception, then that it becomes an obstacle to generating great compassion, and an obstacle therefore to generating the mind of enlightenment. And so the only reason that sentient beings should have in order to qualify for our compassion is that they are sentient beings. The very fact of their being sentient beings is enough to generate the compassion necessary in this case.
가서다다 마주에 쳐다 셈요. 로다디 로다 팬톤에 토냠 너바게네 게냐메 기타 토마 메바나 섬다나 오데 셈요. 다 델라 셈요마나 랑기 김제 이용바시라 미네 셈요. 다 데네 니가라 찌자도 미네 셈요. 데네 셴나메 림기 코 오데 다는 싫어. 지기 야보 지기 지기 독자 지기 줘봐나 아니 거의 야보 지기다 더 보셈요. 뒤념자다 아니 독자 지기 들렸셈요. 다다 누가 지기 요때 아니 경험만 남라 야보 체뇨 요리. 아니 로아 아니 마음벌에 야보 체시 바래. 어디게 다 직잖아. 아니 어디게 다 셈냐네 니가 메티게 어디게 셈냐네 어디게 아니 거다 내가 가서 편바 주고 들려고 어디다 셈냐네 아니 코니 냠도스잖아 아니 셈냐 바지에차 니가 지자도 미네고 되네 셴나메 림신 거메다 되네 봐 이제 작게네 림신도 숨제다 다들 셈냐마나 아니 가서다 셈냐마나 예도 예원 가서다 가서 셈냐마나 예도 온에 셰베 셈제실라 미네 셈냐 오다 가다 오다 딱 가자 저라 이게 소소 예도 온아 통되게 셈제들 미네 셈냐 미네고 되네 대유 체내자 그저 보모 다사쇼 쇼발에 다제 문제 캐남 탐제세 다자 체제 문제 샤진도 군제 편수 자당 쇠바이 캐자 지다 되자 셈자게 셰수바다르자.
So then the development of this mind of equanimity. So here it's saying, for example, if you're in retreat in a hermitage and that you have neighbors on your left and right, that you can first of all focus on the neighbor on your right and endeavor to really develop the mind of equanimity towards that single person. and that that again, if they have been beneficial to you or harmful towards you, is not the issue here. That in the context of previous lives, you have to understand that they have had every kind of relationship towards you, and so it doesn't make any sense to have attachment or aversion, and therefore the only common sense approach is one of equanimity. And so when one establishes just that equanimity, that sense of evenness towards the person on your right, then you can focus on the other person on your left, and again use the same reasoning and develop an equanimity based on just that single person. And then you can take both together, and the emphasis here is to take it gradually and to slowly develop and expand out your equanimity to encompass more and more sentient beings. So here you take both simultaneously and develop the mind of equanimity, and then it can expand out to others. And so, for example, you can begin by just focusing on all of those who you are fond of, that you have a sense of affinity towards, and then to focus on developing a sense of equanimity towards them. And that here, using not just the notion of previous lives and expanding out the length of time, but also into the future, and to understand that equanimity is the most common sense approach. And here we have a quote from a text known as the Finest Moon's Discourse Sutra, which says, "Formerly, I have killed all of you, and you have slashed and dismembered me. All of us have been mutual enemies and killed one another. How could you be attached?" And so it here is to counter attachment, that we look into the negative relationships that we've had, or negative connections we've had with all others that we are so fond of now. And that in this way, by loosening or dampening that attachment, we can arrive at the mind of equanimity.
Rata within the center and the kind of champion won't go on take it. That the the teller, Semanion by the champion won't be too. Naya, you don't want sebe and a koi get red. You don't want to sebe and a koi give a little chutun. Give a yin. They are ranking Yetuta, Nienda, Yoko, Zashela, Soba Namji Namne, Sondu Judo Sobe, Sobe as a don't do the tower. Because that jumbo the tower, don't do the tower. Shaka Shija Pato, Pension Zawa, that Chene, then a rimbo metoba Soso Kiabachua, Kalaya, Chawash, the Chakshen, Mewachawa test. Takaja, Pinja Jobo, second Takaja, Chik Tundu, because Tundu so Caso Takaja. Then they're Tosachilla, because of the market sort of the Tosachilla, Zonsachilla, Penacasha, Yamadewina, Pena, logical market such Chibut the Tosa Yorata, the Delan, get a chibut the Mimabu Yongurata, Mimogozon, and then Yamakaja Kateto, what I didn't see Jenna, Pimpia to put on Motica, the Dejanja rest water. That each other, Lenya Banazo Sa Sani, and quite you to take it one. What I don't chap was like to send me to asking such that. Kala Chawashi, never chatters, Jujula, Tamja bought the Chikova, Dajeta machine, Zada Misa, Dunja, Divanaba Nasocha, Zawa Namja Mewacho, Mizanamja Mewacho, Daja Mewacho, Deja Tamja Mewachos.
And so here it's, how does this mind of discrimination arise? The mind that is, diametrically opposed to the mind of equanimity. So from the holding ourselves to be truly established, this whole process of this and that, us and them, begins. We distinguish ourselves from the other. and therefore that opens the door to any kind of discrimination that comes afterwards. That we have, those in our gang, our group, our side, and then there's the other side, the other group. And so this kind of then opens up the concept of distance between self and other. And that here, it's advised that such attachment and aversion, and particularly in this case, the notion of attachment is really quite insidious. It says that the biased mind is driven by this attachment, and not only that, but the clinging that arises from holding others close like that has been the cause for our being reborn in cyclic existence again and again and again. And that here the advice is that really when it comes to those who are close to us, those who are relatives, friends, helpers, and so on, and that we should view them as like travelers who have arrived at the marketplace. And in the past, you would have one big market or fair that took place during the year, and everybody went there, and that you would associate with them as business people, as guests at that market fair, for the few days that it lasted, and act very well towards them. But then before long you would all go your separate ways back to where you were from. And that here you would say there's no point in clinging, or no point in having attachment, because we weren't going to be together for that very long. And so this is the attitude towards it, that clinging attachment is superfluous, and one should replace it with the mind of equanimity. And it's also from the Bodhisattva's way of life. It says, leaving all, I must depart alone. But through not having understood this, I committed various kinds of negativity for the sake of my friends and enemies. My enemies will become nothing, my friends will become nothing, I too will become nothing. Likewise, all will become nothing. So here the implication is that that all of our relationships are temporary. And in this one life, we already will have had many changes in the way we related to in different individuals. And that so therefore, considering these relationships based on that either close attachment or distant aversion, are considering them to be so important, has only led us into negative, unskillful decisions and behavior. And so really it's saying, look, it's time to stop deceiving yourself. You're only fooling yourself by holding these extremes, and you really need to develop a sense of equanimity.
심지어 수인바이네 심지어 탐자 아니 문에 전에 장기 년그 조어디 차대요. 년그 조어 차대요. 배나 차자바이나 배나 차자바이나 세 심지어 수인바이네 소소 파마 제만이도 소소 년 제만이고 지야매 되겠지. 다 되네 인도 아니 로페나 카상게 야고 지근다 데링게 야고 지근이라 뒤주의 개발면도 야고 지근을 개발요 말아. 안디자 세디 마다 책개발 말에 개발요 말이야. 메나 아니 저랭게만이만 마트레 개발요 말. 다 근데 저도 아니 심지어 수이만에 라라 딘제게 마찬자 차대 저배 저 만에시 등기 장바 장자 차대도 아니 지가 딜라 아니 착당전에 지가 당와 지에다 지라 가서데 착바지에게 좀세 매되겠죠. 좀세 매되겠죠.
And so these kind of like exaggerated extremes of holding somebody as like so clinging to somebody as the absolute kind of friend and the other as absolute sort of enemy, you can see is only feeding what's known as our self-cherishing attitude. And indeed that self-cherishing attitude is the biggest enemy we have anyway. And that we cannot afford to be feeding that attitude. We need to be able to really see all sentient beings without exception as being a close, really close friend to us, as a very, very kind to us, and that in the context of like previous lives, we establish that they have been in the role of that mother, of being incredibly kind to us and have been there by our sides for so long, to focus on that aspect of their relationship, and to also not distinguish between the time, whether they engaged in that beneficial action, that kindness in the past or in at the time now, is only a question of time difference, but the kindness was still the same, so we should appreciate it as such. There's no difference in terms of their benefit, in terms of their kindness, and that is the way we need to be able to cultivate this sense of equanimity, and that to counteract any sense of discrimination, of holding senses of attachment, clinging, and aversion. And the more we're able to appreciate sentient beings, the more we're able to see that any thoughts of attachment or aversion are indeed unreasonable.
Tena sem nyobana ane yewon kasade yido myon sata tela sem nyobana yido myon shebe semjen shi de to set tam neta set sewa mine tela sem nyoba kom oda sem nyoba kom bache ta tela sa sem nyobana ranje lue ta chi do mutum kasa mutum bor suwa shedan ke ba yin tela sem 마녀만은 잔주가 셈집에 내매배서 신야 준줄래 개바 동도 사바이 진다 대세 추어라서 레제 가에 대군자 콘트롤직을 좀 받제 제다 반대 다외자 강시 개세 남라 초아이 진다 추짐 진다 진다 침중 개와 개바자 사바 기제 제제 좀 대치 미세 레신 되고 요만이 셰송 받다르자.
And then the third component of developing equanimity is to visualize somebody who you are not fond of, who you regard as unpleasant, and develop, clearly visualize them, and then develop the mind of equanimity based on that example. And that we have to understand that this lack of equanimity towards this individual is based on kind of a biased antagonism of our mind, and that gives rise to this aversion or even hatred. And that we understand without that equalizing our attitude towards them, without that with that lack of equanimity, then the mind of enlightenment is impossible to generate. There is no place where it can be generated more accurately. And then again, from the Bodhisattva's way of life, it points out whatever wholesome deeds, such as venerating the Buddhas and generosity, that have been amassed over 1,000 eons, will be destroyed in one moment of anger. And then from Entering the Middle Way, another text, it says that anger towards a bodhisattva instantly destroys all virtue of generosity and ethics accumulated for 100 eons. Therefore, there is no more severe negativity than impatience.
차티고 요새 다 콘도 쓰는 다 셰당 쓰는 다 괜찮지 버지기도 다 대자마서 최케 말레 바이나야 셰당도 콘도 깨온도 아니 저 가서데 하바다 탐지 캠베 계자 말에 랑기 내가게 아니 가서데 니네 기분 마도 칼라이네 좋아메게 아니 학교도 아니 답변을 드리가서 체리바 속에 제바제 온도 아니 콘도다 셰당 깨온도 아니 랑기 다 이몬 시스템스로 다 랑기 소투에 뉴바티가 괜찮지도 없어 잠바데 니지 깨온도 안디 패주고도 없어 뭐다 되게 가도 그 다지 최저 잠마자 배다 세디 개체부터 랑을 류다 셈디 개체 보러 와 아니 디게는 디기래 내용 것이 제대로 어다데다 저는 최켈레멜라 마도 봐 아니 배 제가서데 잡아 니지 냠슬랑 거 콘도도 셔다 빵거데 차되기도 와
So this issue of this aversion, anger, hatred, and so on, are pointed out as major obstacles to the path of generating the mind of enlightenment, or to attaining liberation or the omniscient state of enlightenment. And so, as obstacles, they are to be eradicated because of that. But even for those people who have no religious aspirations or path, it's very clear that to live with an angry mind is very inconducive to one's own well-being, even in terms of not being able to sleep well, not being able to enjoy one's food, and indeed, we are told more and more research has demonstrated that anger and aversion and so on can compromise one's immune system, just as love and compassion apparently strengthens one's own immune system. So even for that which we hold quite important, our own bodily health, it seems that anger is a bad idea, and the development of love and compassion is a good idea.
가서도 셔당 저도 미기 남주 되면도 와 아니 치고 먹고 먹고 배주 당기도 와 아니 콘도도 마시서도 있는 거 사기도 와 거기서 걸 대바메 따로.
So then another aspect of anger is that it compromises in the moment. It very much compromises the use of our own intelligence. That reasoning doesn't come because we're so upset, and that we may carry on with that negative behavior, but at a later time when we've calmed down, the predominant emotion is one of shame or embarrassment, that I really lost control back there. And so it shows you then that your anger was not based on valid reasoning as well. That it was untoward and irrelevant.
아니 콘도다 셰당 겨운데 아니 뱃코나 가서다 지금 녀몽 숙청부 겨운데 아니 소소 내가 겨와 연구도 소소 교회지도 소소 세바 연구도 소소 돌아다가 먹고 용되기도 와 왔다 어때들 아니 소소가 세와 요서된데 저다 세바다 가이네 용되기도 다 뉴스나 통한테 되게 와 내가 그 용되기도 와 다들어서 그 콘도 쓰는데 셰당 쓰고 윤대 자원이네 다 내가 그 가서 뭔가 머리에 온거 용되다 뭐 여기 내좀 마시be 온거 용되기도 와
Again, to really point out what is quite clear to us in terms of anger, aversion, and hatred, that the fact of there being mental afflictions, or very powerful mental afflictions, is very obvious, is very clear. That those who are living with this kind of anger have really no peace of mind, and that there's no good qualities that can be seen for is sustaining any sense of anger or hatred. And so it's very obvious the disadvantage to anybody, whether it's for their own personal health, their own sense of well-being, their own peace of mind, that it's a disadvantage to have a tendency towards anger, and so we should do everything we can then to eradicate it. And this is only really becoming aware of the actuality of situations, isn't it? It's plain to see that anger is not a good idea. Therefore, we should do everything we can to eradicate it.
다 간제 말아서 저기 근데 제가 있네. 근데 타조 제가 있네. 아니 랑게 저 가서도 저 그래서 온비 셔봐서 그래. 지게는 센서리 레벨에서 된대 zaman 나와서 저 참아 셔봐치네. 근데 또 봐, 띵sab도 좀센 돈을 삼았다니. 근데 잡대 참아 도문도 좀센 돈을 삼았다니. 다 지금 저 가서 미지기 저당 아니 최지 때 근데 지게 있네. 뒤 돈을 삼았다니. 잡대 참아 도문도 어떤데 그 삼로 돈을 줘도 봐이나 아니 가서도 지 가서도 다 경그 장용도 저 연대가 자 콘도 배줘야지 용투에다 저한테는 고추도
So really, this brings into play the very process by which we make decisions about our everyday lives. And that here we need to understand that if we're making decisions based on the kind of data coming from our sensory perception, then we're on more volatile ground. And so we're encouraged to not just make decisions based on what's interpreted from the senses, but to go deeper and to really use what we call valid reasoning to make our decisions. This is really, very strongly advised for us, and whether it's making decisions about spiritual matters or worldly matters, it's the same. That if we're able to come from a position of using, really valid reasoning, of really cogitating about these particular reasons, and being able to then establish a course of action based on those valid reasonings, we are going to have a lot more success in our decision-making process, and therefore in our life. And that by proceeding like that, by cultivating a mode of action based on such valid reasoning, we are also able to diminish the number of faults in our decision-making process and in our overall life, and to establish more good qualities in our life at the same time.
But ngarazo kanga게 ngarazo게 any previous generation 다 미도 제마데 야보 요나 kan가 레와 요르바. kan가 레와 요도 다 ngarazo게 미지게다 최다 직된 근데 지게 임바이네 중세 톤을 줘야지 제바이나 ngarazo게 검시데 미도 제마 랭고리. 미도 제마 야보 요다 레와 숙차요. 칸네 미도 제마 야보 거야 레와 저 소소지에데 딱딱 맞제바이나 and
so, it's very obvious that we hear it all the time, how important the future generation is for us, and that we have great hopes for the future generation to be able to make good decisions and so on. But that must begin with how we are living our own lives now, and that we need to really be able to show that decisions are made based on valid reasoning within our own lives as the primary example to the future generation. Otherwise, it's merely paying lip service to hopes for a better future generation, whereby we are not endeavoring to be that change that we wish to see in ourselves. And so, therefore, we need to live our lives in accordance with valid reasoning, and therefore our hopes for future generation will be valid as well. And so that if we are using valid reasoning on a constant basis in in establishing our spiritual practice and in our spiritual life, then this inevitably will spill over into our worldly endeavors as well, and so they will be directed through valid reasoning. And there's no doubt that by doing so, many problems will be eradicated, and we will have many advantages that will come to us based on that.
다들 세단의 컨트롤에서 님이 섬내서 세단 가봐쳐봐. 세야 나 기분 ting기에서 기분 ting기에서 가서다 내가 님에게 가서 네바미베 가서 봉사 이슈에 롱장 받다 자니 봐마 가라 양사 타직도 네바 마치베 지지 세단 개와체 냠도 세단 칸의 세명바 툭체.
And so therefore, anger, hatred, and so on, by focusing on anger and hatred and seeing the faults of anger and hatred, we must therefore put a stop to them. And that also, in referencing previously, what was previously discussed on the path, when we were discussing the teachings in relation to the person of moderate capacity, the teachings on the uncertainty. And here, there's from the questions of Subahu, it says that, when we talk about a friend or enemy or a neutral person, there's ultimately no certainty about these relationships. There's no stability about these relationships. So why have aversion to one and attachment to another and so on? That the only logical approach is to have a sense of equanimity. And so we put a stop to this clinging and this anger, this aversion, and to replace it with the mind of equanimity.
벤차자는 거라 단다데 샤리부게 무식 시에 나치데 샤리부 무식 시온도 아니 지금 미ዛ지게 아니 가서다 미자지게 파디 정전에 다가지 파디 정전에 다가지 가서다 레다 가지 정전에 아니 미자디 티게 징보들에 깨발에 냐르게 가서는 남주 되는 파디게 냐심되게 혀래 아마디 정전 미자디 참에 미자들 참에 kilike and so passing the Travoti, John and Mizandi Putti, and the Chansa Captain T. Pugulike. And the bed, the Pugus and beds, our Chedogen beds, our shooting, yet I'm go passing and get chatty or that chatty or the ineta. Bed so that so to tonsil settle so the Pugu chatty and so that our Chishu is a chatty or a Palayan, our shooting, and putting in Yasim and Yadi, so the Babeke Gawati Chatera. And Yashase, a roboti usually, and Kimoti, Kimoti, Dakasada, Sosa Amati, Gawachatera, and then Yatiki, Gawangamati, Gime, Gawachatera, what then Pasha such a manaso, Daniam Trouble Plantona, Coechola, Gemotosta, Coechola, the Gemoso, Shorta, Cato del Delbeshi was doing the matter because of background Chantongo Yomarwata. 통급에다 내가 들에 찾았다. 야, 볼 때 봐이다. 네가 자원이네 매디겠지. 네 잘라줘. 다니엘을 주다베. 세딜에 네가 먼저라다. 저런가만 남자잖아. 네가 자원이네 매디겠지. 들으고다. 내가 들에 네가 좀 뭐좀 뭐 맞죠 봤잖아. 착당시고 깨네. 랑랑 고고다는 초요 말에 수고 열어다.
So there is the account coming from Shariputra, who through his clairvoyance on arriving in some house could see the different relationships between all the different characters in the household and going back into previous lives. And so he could understand that there was a father of this house who had been very fond of fishing in a pool at the back of the house, and so much attachment had he to fishing that when he died he was reborn as a fish in that pool, and that his own son had continued fishing as his father did and actually caught the fish that was his father, and that this is all unfolding in Shariputra's clairvoyance. Furthermore, he spotted a dog in the house, and the dog actually was the rebirth of the mother of the house, who has so much clinging to the family that she was reborn as a member of the family in the form of a dog, and that and worse than that, there was a child, a baby in the household, and this was the rebirth of the sworn enemy of the family, who had been killed, and reborn as the child of that man and his wife. So what you could see in the house was that here was the man of the house holding fondly and with great love this baby who was his enemy, eating the flesh of his father in the form of a fish, and under the table was the dog eating the bones of her own husband, and Shariputra was saying, he eats his father's flesh and hits his mother. The enemy he kills sits on his knee. A wife gnaws her husband's bones. Samsara can be such a farce. And so this is what he's saying. If we knew really the real relationship between all the people we associate with, we would see that how absurd it would be to have any sense of attachment or aversion, that it would be counterproductive to any future relations that we have. And so therefore we need to have this mind of equanimity. And so it's really pointing out the sense of, that by proceeding with attachment and anger, we are in a process of true self-deception, that it is absurd and it is farcical, and that when we can see even this in the course of one life, but when you establish it in the course of past and future lives, and this can be established through reasoning, and that it would be unreasonable to discount the idea of past and future lives, that we can see that there's no certainty when it comes to these relationships that we have with others, and that if we proceed with the exaggerated sense of attachment to one, labeling them as friend, and aversion to the other, labeling them as enemy, the fault is to ourselves. That's our own fault, and that's our own self-deception, and it's counterproductive. And so then, in the course of developing the mind of equanimity, that if we look at a person to whom we are fond, we have this sense of attachment, and then the other who we see as an enemy, and we have a sense of aversion to them, and visualize both of them together. And then when we see from their own side, it's clear that they want happiness and they do not want suffering. And they are similar in that respect. And then from our side, when we look at them, we see that the one who we hold as a friend, who we have attachment to now, that when we look at it in the context of beginningless time in cyclic existence, they have played the role of our main enemy, our arch enemy, countless times. And that when we look at the one who we hold as an enemy now, who we have a sense of aversion towards, again in the context of beginningless time, they have acted as the one who has sustained us with great love, tremendous love, countless times. So who should we be attached to? Who should we have aversion to? And we need to develop the mind of equanimity that is free of both attachment that holds people close and aversion that holds people distant. So then we make a supplication to the Guru on our crown. O Guru Deity, please bless me to be able to make this so. And so this in equanimity, as we have said before, that we need to meditate on equanimity for all sentient beings. And so then the objective of being able to develop equanimity for all sentient beings, of course, again begins with that visualization of really seeing all sentient beings and understanding that all sentient beings are similar, same, in wanting happiness and in not wanting any suffering. And so, since all sentient beings are my friends, then I need to look into the kind of way in which that is exaggerated into a fault. In other words, that only seeing them, having attachment to them, and therefore on the basis of that I will benefit them. But when I see them as distant and not have any attachment to them, then I see no reason why I can give them benefit, or indeed I will harm them. And so here we need to develop the equanimity again, that is free of these insidious and destructive attitudes of attachment on the one hand and aversion on the other, and develop the mind of equanimity. And again we make that supplication to the Guru on our crown. O Guru Deity, please bless me to be able to make this so. And we find that as a result of our supplication that the 5 colored nectar lights emanate from the body of the Guru Deity on our crown, and entering into ourselves and all other sentient beings, into our mind body continuum, eradicating all negativities and obscurations in general that have been accumulated since beginningless time, but in particularly all those negativities and obscurations directed at our that are supporting our bigoted attitude, our biased attitude of aversion and attachment, and that these are eradicated in order that we can establish the mind of equanimity.
다 카도 야고 제고에도 소소리 야 카도가 소소를 파마이나 부고를 야고제 아니 개개인의 기둘을 야고제 다 그러버를 랭게죠 봐야 요때 얘네야 꿀론데 자니가 예와 매제 마게 심제 탐제라 펜베 두베 쳐도 아니 두베 꿀론 뒤 토데 아니 소소 카도라다 부부다 파마다 안 조보 술라 펜바 지고네 아니 지금 진짜 맞은 거 심지어제 안 다른 게 leg 온게 될 부고 되와 개경게 되와 기두게 되와 다 파마다 된데게 되와 도보 도미게 되와 어디에 이게 될 편도 제가 고급지 중화래 선 아니 될 편바 좀네 안디 심지어 탐제라 편바 좀에 주되는 좀 도와 제지 어디 개지 뭐래 어디에
And so that in all of this development of equanimity, it's the sense of that the equalizing the attitude we have towards all sentient beings, and understanding that as good as our sense of fondness towards those with whom we are close, our friends, our neighbors, our family members, and so on, that this is very helpful. Of course, it's very beneficial. But it's incomplete, and we should see that, you know, in many of these the relationships, in any case, whether it's between teacher and student or between parent and child, that there's a great deal of inherent responsibility in those roles anyway. And so here we need to be able to find a way of being able to extrapolate out the positive relationships we have with these individuals, so that they encompass all sentient beings. That concept of being able to hold all sentient beings with that sense of equanimity. And so here, you know, whether it's looking at parents who are behaving well towards their children and so on, to expand that out, to see that as an opportunity, from my point of view, to develop this sense of positivity towards that, and that it may be the cause to be able to expand that benefit out to all sentient beings, to be able to help all sentient beings, because you've really placed them in that sort of ground where it's you're more likely to be able to benefit them.
고급지 중화래 당에디 야고 시고 존서 같이 쪼시고는 편바주에 중국으로 왔다. 같이 쪼시고는 편바주에 안디 심지 탐제를 편바주에 유티 두고 두베게는 두베게는 고론다 뭐와치에 개체 뭐래 어떻게
And so in that context of really seeing all sentient beings as kind mother sentient beings, then in every interaction that we have, we immediately put that into context of saying, this is through the karma that we have together, this opportunity has arisen for me in this interaction to be as beneficial as I can, because I'm holding this person as a kind mother, a sentient being. And that, here, to be able to interact in that way, in that context, is and with the what's considered to be a very important part of that interaction is the motivation that we enter into it, and the dedication with which we finish it off are very, very important. And they can, when we take that one sentient being with whom we are interacting and be able to encompass all sentient beings in our action, now we're laying down the causes to attain that mind of enlightenment.
저 파마다 부부주다 조고 조물로 조고 제바데 아니 대과 준비 최기 다 대화 차주고도 와 아니 산지 줄로도 티캡사로 와.
And so the benefit here is plain to see, that in our normal everyday interactions with our mom and dad, parents, friends, and so on, that if we can expand it out like this, to see them as kind mother sentient beings, to see the karma of the situation, to implement good motivation for the action that we are about to engage in, and finish it off with a dedication as well, that we are creating in each case then that connection with the Mahayana ideal, the Mahayana imperative to attain the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and that it's all to our benefit.
되면은 benches나 저 파매게 보고 동당 어느 보고로 편도 지나 항상 해야 되지도 이내 양다 란 전생의 시간을 줄줄줄 아니 코에 주면도 아니 타바 탐색이 줄로 정도 방법을 줄 와야 다들 고노 야고지 쥐어도 와이나 아니 산지에 줄로 주토나다 캡산 심으로 와.
And so yes, again too, to see that when our motivation falls short of this or is not as expansive as this, we know then that the interactions, the everyday interactions between whether it's children and parents or any other interactions that we have are in some way tainted with self-cherishing attitude, and that as good as they look, they will be simply only creating the causes to be reborn again in cyclic existence. And that here then you can see the obvious benefit of being able to have the more enlightened approach when doing the same actions, of really bringing it within the bounds of the generation of the mind of enlightenment. And so therefore even these mundane acts will become the causes for the attainment of enlightenment itself. The benefit is obvious, isn't it? And of course this is, it's fair to say that for many of us to engage in, as beginners, to engage in excellent Dharma practice is quite difficult. It's to have the conditions to go away and do retreat and so on. But in our everyday actions, in our everyday interactions, there are many, many good things that we can do in order to make our life into more of a spiritual life. And that means in this way, establishing motivation and dedication that accompany these different actions, being more mindful about transforming the normal mundane actions into little spiritual practices, to slowly then develop your life into a spiritual life. This is doable for us. And then following on from the generation of the mind of equanimity, then we go from recognizing all sentient beings as one's mother, up to the mind of enlightenment itself, the actual result or the effect in that 7 cause and effect instruction. And so here again we bring this about by again bringing our mind to understand that on our crown we have the Guru deity, and within that we look towards developing seeing all sentient beings as one's mother. This begins with a quote from Dharmakirti's commentary on the Compendium of Prime Cognition, and it goes, when someone has been reborn, how absurd it would be for his breathing organs and mind to have developed from the body alone and not in dependence on a cause of their own class. And so this is the establishment of the reasoning behind the continuum of consciousness. So it's saying here, take the subject, the first moment of consciousness in the womb. It arises from a previous moment of consciousness as its substantial cause. Therefore, it is a consciousness. It is consciousness. And so, for example, it was saying that the consciousness we experience now has come from a line or continuum of moments of consciousness going back without any beginning. And so, on the basis of this consciousness, then we say that cyclic existence also goes back limitlessly in time. and you cannot find any starting point for this mind.
딱 이제 간제 저 가서도 군대가 남샤가 토냐 군대가 남샤들라 딱 이제 가서도 좀 뭐부스도 이자베잖아 라는 줄을 떼고 줄아야 아니 저 규칙 말에 규타야 봐줘도 아니 년령이 좋다 현지적인 교수 니 용되게 요래 니 용되게 요래 어디를
And so to expand this out again, we point out that in the 7 cause and effect instruction, it talks about the mind as being a functioning object, consciousness itself. And in Buddhist terminology, that means that it must, for its existence, rely on causes and conditions. And this refers to a substantial cause and the cooperative conditions.
어디를 딱 간제 가서래 어디 겨워서
Ah, yes.
Come. 야, 이니. 신시. Come, sit. 어디는 저 간제 저거다. 간제 저기 년령이 교여봐 있네. 현재 지금 맨나네. 요거 말에 걸 현재 지금 저 거들도. 오케이.
And so, and again, and you know, in talking about functioning objects, that if the cooperative conditions are present, but the substantial cause is absent, then that functioning object cannot come into existence.
맞아. 딱 맞아. 저기 가서 준대 라바든 저 삼로단 하거든. 배나 저기 대다 내다 매도 된게 안서 대 년령이 줘와. 아니 대 가서대 추다 줘다 되게 그가 신바다 되게 그가 현지 지경과 다 현지 지경은 마테네 서컴보테 로똥다 거라 이번에 그 되게 도무도 와. 그 현지 지경 고도 와. 현지 지경 고도 어디가 된대. 다 가이나면은 다 간제 지금 먼저 셰베게 다 되게 다 셰베게 년령이 주더라 셰방가마지 요구 그러면 셰방가마지 매바이나 셰방마인게 지레 셰바시게 두고 매바이인사 아니 배나 단대게 셰바데 야야 두바네 게마다 셰바데 겨왕가메게 셰바지 매바이나 딩게게 셰바지 매바이나 아니 디 셰베 년령이 매바 차도 그래 년령이 매바이나 다야 리고 요 말다 그 리퍼데 게 두고 요봐 어떤데 진짜 아니 야야 두도 아니 겨와투마메 바네 랭고 도스 어디 용고 도스 어디 토마메스 그 자타한테 제 어디 다 마셔 두도 겨왕가만 섬제 탄자 마셔 두도 겨왕가마지 잠하도 바이나 겨왕가마지 뭐 마송아 이나 아니 그 섬제 탄자 마셔 요구 말와 어디
So, in a coarse way of explaining this cause and effect relationship, that for example, take the example of rice or barley or wheat or indeed any plant like that, that the seed of that plant is the substantial cause, and that and then all of the other components, the soil in which the seed is sown, the fertilizer that may be added, the heat and moisture that it receives in order to grow, all these are the cooperative conditions. And so we can have any number of cooperative conditions and have them for thousands of years, but without substantial cause, there will be no effect, there will be no production. So in the context of consciousness, it is proposed that the substantial cause of consciousness is a previous moment of consciousness. And this is why when the logic is extrapolated back, that we can go back to say that it is going back to beginningless time, that there can be no starting point to the consciousness, because it always has to have a previous moment of consciousness as its substantial cause. And that to establish that it came from nothing is illogical, that it would be counter to reasoning. And so this is why say that consciousness is a non-broken continuum since beginningless time, because it is formed on the basis of having a previous moment of that consciousness as its substantial cause, and that and this then establishes, past and future lives based on that unbroken continuum of consciousness. And it said that this is quite essential to being able to realize the first cause in this cause and effect instruction being seeing all sentient beings as one's mother. And then, so therefore, on the basis of that beginningless consciousness, that we can establish that all sentient beings have acted in the role of mother for us. And then there's a quote from the melodious laughter of Losang Drakpa's answers to questions on the whitest altruism of all, which reads, from the commentary on cultivating the recognition of all sentient beings as one's mother, from the compendium of prime cognition, when you take rebirth, etc., meditate using skillful means on scripture and logic to establish the infinite beginninglessness of samsara. And so then it comes the first kind of objection or question, but it says, however, how can all, what is the reason that to establish all sentient beings as having been, a friend or so close to us? And so the answer here is that since cyclic existence is beginningless, therefore our rebirths in cyclic existence are also beginningless, countless. And that from each birth, from the continuum from each birth to each birth, there's simply no place, first of all, where we have not taken rebirth, and no country in which we have not taken rebirth, and that we have that number of rebirths also has been countless. Also, there is no body, no type of body in which we have not taken rebirth, and those bodies have been countless also. And that then moving on from that, we say that for the same reasoning that in all of the rebirths we have had, there is no birth in which we have not had a mother, and all those rebirths are countless also. And even when we have been born as a human being, there's no rebirth in which we have not had a mother, and indeed those mothers have acted in that role again countless times, and that still is the case. Therefore, the only logical conclusion is to really see all sentient beings as having been and are being extremely kind.
Wana semjela chang mebe asa semja tamje ran daje ma ma yin do nyam na semjela chang mebe daje ma yin ba mi ju de semjela chang mebe shin do da gi kya wala ya chang mebe semja tamje da gi ma chi ja yin nyam do sam sa to ma che nyo da jo de chi ja yin sam ge de da semja tamje la pen ju ngo mi she be da ge ma yin do nyam na da semja tamje pen ju ngo ma she be daje ma yin ba mi ju de che de ya 마부 펜션 거면 시바 도마 두배 소스 요거 도왔어 대야 빼나 결혼 하사 마 utapale do ranje putang choshudo judesa choshudo jedo pomoda penjun kasa pomoda asa penjudo juja ngoma shibata boda sheyang ngar re da dezamar derigasa lumba pazo da ji pazo chudo mambo soso pamada bu kajeje ngoma shibo mambo 용되게 열어다 sheyang ngar sa kasata pasha sashe mala tsok jeso subata dagin shari buksu dere wata da mishi jesa pashiwa kasa mishi jesa pashiwa nyari gene di nyago kasa di sha korang yi sashe kasa mashiwa kimoy gene sa nyaru la te nyaru sate cho korang tsengwa ma sugen korang je burgene ngoma shiba 다고 원념도 삼서 어떤 용도도 왔다게 장대지 개대 semje 탐제 차랑 ngame 마인자 대심배서 마임 바 밑에도 있냐나 워낙 가산지에서 되게 마티야 드린 게 돼서 대심배 마마임 바 주대 내가 가산지 되게 마다 드린 게 되게 많이 마마임 임바야 라야 개발매 증기 장발에 개발매 시야 롱아마다 란지 개보다고 소바케라 소 잡았다 로치마 라 소잡아니 롱가체 잡마도 진체종을 개발해 봐 신도 다게 생남에 마다 체디 많이 마임바야 개발해 등기 장발라에 개발해 봐 semje 탐제 다제 마치자 이분도 냠도 어디서 섬담 그랬어 거든요.
And so then it's saying another objection, and that even though sentient beings are countless, it doesn't mean that they have all been my mother, and that the answer comes that it's actually that it doesn't mean that just because sentient beings are countless that they have never been your mother. And that the fact that sentient beings are countless means, in fact, the opposite, that they have actually all been one's mother. They have definitely had the mother in all those previous lives. And then a further objection comes in, but what if, that we don't recognize, I don't recognize all sentient beings as one's mother. Doesn't that mean that they haven't been my mother? And the answer comes in that that is not the case. That it doesn't mean that just because you don't recognize all sentient beings as in that role, it doesn't discount the fact that they have been your mother. Even in this life, it said that you have many examples of parents and children who don't recognize themselves in that role. And in the text, it talks about the Gelongma, the fully ordained nun Utpalavarna, who throughout her life had many different relations, but that she didn't recognize that who was her husband from a previous point in that life, or who was their son in a previous point in that life, or daughters and so on. Didn't recognize the different relationships they have. And again, they give that example that Genla gave earlier with regard to Shariputra's clairvoyance. He eats his father's flesh and hits his mother. The enemy he killed sits on his knee. A wife gnaws her husband's bones. Samsara can be such a farce. And that here also, then another objection comes in. But since if these sentient beings have been my mothers in the past, since that's past, how can I think of them as the mother now? And here the objection is answered, but that would mean then what you're saying is that your mother of yesterday is no longer your mother of today. That she is still your mother, and that and here we have to understand that the mothers of the past and the mothers of that we have today, there's no difference essentially. And especially in terms of their kindness, there is no difference that should be established. And that here, it's another example backing this up. Say, what if, you had somebody who saved you from execution, from the king's decree, and did that last year, and then saved you again this year. So there is no difference in terms of their kindness, only in terms of the time. And so we should not make any distinctions in terms of the kindness of sentient beings. And therefore, we have to really see that all sentient beings are no different in terms of the kindness they have afforded us since beginningless time.
아니 데라 동에이로나 미세바케 아니 대화 중도게 가서데 딱 가서데 대화 중도게 아니 잠바 미대바 중나 미세비게 인지 용되기로 와 다른 것도 되게 차게 종료요 인상 이원기 잠바 매바 인상 아니 가셔라 인지게 가셔라 마게지 용되기도 와 이원기 잠바 용해 될래야 안 진소도 용하들라 진치부 임바셔다 진치부 임바데 아니 제대다다 마셔라서 같은데 하고고도 와 다디고 제와시고 차되기도 와.
And so that this being able to develop this first cause of seeing all sentient beings as one's mother, as one's incredibly kind mother, is absolutely an essential first cause to being able to complete this set of 7 cause and effect instruction. And here it's in order that we are now able to really understand the closeness that we have towards all sentient beings. And following on from that cause, then you have the next logical cause of remembering the specific kindnesses of the mother. And that is followed in turn then by the third cause of wishing to repay that kindness. And it's said that when we establish those 3 causes skillfully and with perseverance, that the 4th cause of affectionate love towards all sentient beings arises naturally and spontaneously. And that really develops this sense of a certain powerful investment in the happiness of all others without distinction, that affectionate love. And that brings forth also then, of course, that when those sentient beings are in difficulty and suffering, that we find that unbearable and we have to do something about it. And that is compassion. And that is the next cause in the 6 cause and effect or 7 cause and effect instruction. And so you can see how these causes follow on logically from each other. And that, of course, that great compassion is the central cause for the establishment of the mind of enlightenment itself. And then you can see how when you go backwards towards it, you can see how that great compassion comes from that sense of investment in the welfare of all sentient beings, that comes from that close affectionate love. And that comes in turn, which is fueled by and based on the 3 preceding causes of really wanting to repay the tremendous kindness of all sentient beings. Why? Because they have been unbelievably kind, and you've established that in the previous cause, and you've established that they have all been in that role of mother through beginningless time, countless times for you, through the first cause of seeing all sentient beings as one's mother.
kira ama tenchibu member ina kiran dire ama tenchibu mes labege ane nibat yungu mares.
Again, as recalling some maybe 10 years ago, we were up in Katoomba in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales and giving a talk there, I think, to a youth group.
Not you, the center.
I was in the center, just a general teaching, and it was again centering on this topic of seeing all sentient beings as one's mother and remembering the kindness of the mother and so on. And this one young woman raised her hand and declared that her mother was not kind at all. And again, I immediately pointed out that the very fact that you can say that now is proof that your mother was very kind, because if she wasn't, you wouldn't have survived this long to say that now.
That's something so tembe tula and amechitan tos nutrichi bachila and teacher in a dingel teachable kasi then teba yomarwa. Kasana de Tawaku de Shamachu Nare and it gets out she would jet to a kind yomarwa. Kind Nimarela so jatamabo, so jatamabo. I mean, Jabura, Timana Hayomarwa. Hayomar, Hayomarwa.
And so when we kind of center too much on, you know, the mistakes, of course, that our mothers, carers make, it's sort of like blinds us to the bigger picture of how incredibly kind our carers have been, our mothers have been, especially, you know, in carrying us for 9 months, and especially after we've been born. Completely helpless, unable to do anything for ourselves, and we were saved countless times from certain death simply by the care of our mothers and carers at that time. So a lot of the essential care that we have received is something that is no longer in our frontal memory, and so we need to reflect on that a bit more to get a bigger appreciation of the kindness of the mother.
Mixing also missing the pets how much she was not a sour. The penna Bajuta and the negative rigging by Tata Baju rigging by and to the chicken in a Yalan to Gutwa, Yalano, Kazawamatun to Gutwa. The next Shabachonga Nishunana and Sasa to Gutwa. And then a Partajam meet in the Marwa.
Also, the tremendous long-term investment that must be made in the human infant to be able to raise them to the point where they are self-sufficient is a gigantic responsibility. Say compared to most other animals, you know, if you look at say a calf or a foal. That they are, you know, able to stand up after a few hours. They're able to take milk and then eat grass within a few days, and so they are kind of basically gain their independence quite quickly, especially in comparison to a human child, which takes so long to be able to get on their own 2 feet really, and need that close care, that intensive love for a long time.
Tenchible meta lapsa for a yomar. Ama tenchible meta lapsa for a yomar.
Yeah.
Labia corata yomar.
And so really there is absolutely no foundation for being able to say that the mother was not greatly kind.
That's so Dembekabla or Chibochana and Amechi does no Richabata. What did you see about it? Yes, young did no Richigua. Did maybe
yes. And of course, yeah, when we get big enough, and then we can start to see that maybe our parents have some faults as well, that they're not perfect. But that is, in comparison to the benefit that they have given us, is minuscule.
What is the give me the ledger? What did the and oh, the day in a Kashasa. Geshe Konchok and the Shinamora Hakos one. Oh, the day in a house. Robina, the Recasa, Mambo portion jigwa. And the portion they give me the right get a shake to. That the day never chats out. And so Pamag portion, my jebach and get to what this usual.
So already again, I was saying like that in that at that time in that teaching at Katoomba, when that explanation of what Gena was pointing out to that girl, when she received that, she then accepted that, oh yes, that my mother must have been tremendously kind for sure. And that Gena said in the context nowadays where there are many abortions taking place, in the context of it being the woman's right to have that abortion, and that therefore you can say that when that choice isn't taken to abort but to have the child, that's already a great kindness.
지단에 게 따왔잖아. 안 보신데 게면 right 말해. children right. 니가 보고 마차 니가 탑시 지에디. 아니 저가데 게면 right 와. 보고 차사서나 랑 right 매바 차사래. 다 children right. 정말 세워이나.
So from my own viewpoint, I believe that that the idea of abortion is not the woman's right. It is children's right. That prior to conception, that's when the male and female have rights in that case. But once a baby has been conceived, now the emphasis must be on the baby's or the child's rights. So once a baby has been conceived, then the parents of that child have no rights. That now it's the time of the child's rights. So let's leave it there for today. And so then, in the context of this generation of the mind of equanimity, preceding the 7 cause and effect instruction, how wonderful it would be to be able to generate that sense of equanimity, free of attachment and anger, that holds some close and others distant. May that be the case. May I be the one to generate it. Oh Guru Deity, please bless me to be able to generate this mind of equanimity. As a result of our supplications, then the nectar light descends from the Guru on our crown and dissolving into our body and mind continuum, eradicating all negativities and obscurations in general, and in particular to being able to generate the obscurations and negativities prohibiting us from being able to generate the sense of equanimity as a realization, and that as a result of the nectar light also then we are endowed with all the positive qualities of long life, positive merit, and increasing appreciation and understanding of the scriptural and realizational Dharma, in order to really generate this attitude of equanimity towards all sentient beings as a realization. So then visualize at your own heart center an upturned 8-petaled lotus with a lotus, moon and sun disk mandala seat. And so then we make our supplication to the Guru Manindra Vajradhara on our crown. Oh, glorious and precious Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of your body, speech and mind. And with the first recitation of that verse, the figure on our crown begins the journey down through our crown, through our central channel, and with the second arrives at the seat that we have prepared at our heart, and with the third, after the third recitation, we have the knowledge that they are steadfast there in that seat, and will remain until we ourselves attain the state of enlightenment.
And then permatabje mahatsumne namju nedanshi nechene wada ane deka da doji kabu zenga bachi irisma nen yu samsacha ane de tagodo ane kaso de alita kalita tenje nga kotan omo a yi uri yoso omo ka tsana tumo yara shaka sa omo ye kama ye da ta da no ma shamana yusu waji gitiga de kod yu samsacha.
And then the petals of the lotus at our heart fold over the figure of Guru Maninja Vajradhara sitting there, sealed by a semi-dorji or vajra at the top, and then it is also surrounded by the ring of the Sanskrit syllable vowels going in a clockwise direction, and then around again circled by the Sanskrit consonants circling in an anti-clockwise direction, and then thirdly the mantra of dependent origination circling again in a clockwise direction. And then light emanates from within the folded lotus, from the figure of the Buddha at our heart center, and it permeates out through the lotus leaves and indeed pervades every cell of our body, from the very crown of our feet to the crown of our head to the soles of our feet, completely pervading us with pure enlightened light. And all the faults of body are purified. And that all the faults of body, speech and mind are purified, and that all the faults or illnesses within the body are pacified, that the elements themselves are even and in balance, and then likewise the channels and winds and drops, any unevenness or imbalance in those are now balanced, and we are in like a perfect state. And that in particular all of the faults, the main faults in keeping us from being able to attain the state of enlightenment in one lifetime, namely viewing all phenomena with an ordinary appearance, that is purified and eradicated, and so that we now are able to be able to view and perceive all phenomena in their pure appearance.
And
then through the combination of my own most subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, and my own body transforms into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And then through the combination of my own most subtle mind acting as the substantial cause, and the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind transforms into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. And now my own body, speech and mind are in indivisible from the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. And from this, bliss arises, and from that, then emptiness, and we abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness. And then we, as a fully enlightened Buddha, send out countless rays of light from our heart center, entering into all of the 6 realms of existence and all the sentient beings there. And as such, soon as they are touched by our light, they completely transform automatically into Buddhas themselves. And that the places in which they are all again transform into light and then into pure Buddha realms. How wonderful today is the day in which I'll be able to lead all sentient beings into that state of enlightenment. That's worth celebrating. That's wonderful. And that the action of leading all sentient beings to enlightenment, the one leading them to enlightenment, and that the objective of enlightenment itself, they are all empty of any objective existence and are merely established by thought. From that reflection on emptiness, we again bring forth a sense of bliss and emptiness and abide in the non-dual bliss and emptiness, the wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness. And so we are really performing all of this through the power of our imagination based on aspirational conviction or faith. And we know that this is just the case now, but we make a strong dedication right now that this will become actually manifest as quickly as possible. And then now let's recite the prayer to the Lam Rim from the prayer books on
29.
page 29. For my 2 corrections, vastest space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds, wisdom is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in a loving compassion for all lives my treasury. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings, with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time, by even this graded path to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Where someone makes effort to act in accordance with the 10-fold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Long